The time is now 1 o'clock, and we are going to start. Yay! So welcome in, everyone. We'll give it a mo, just let people filter in. It's nice to see everyone who shows. Love my chat. Another couple of chapters for Weyrwood coming right up. We've been getting into the fun stuff. The fun stuff. All right. So, as always, this is Weyrwood by Choice of Games. You can find them on their website, choiceofgames.com, or on Steam, which is where I play them. They are choose your own adventure stories in game form. So we will be headed into the end, the last section, the end game of Weyrwood here. This is a Regency style story with some magic and mystery twists. It's a lot of fun. So we, as a reminder, are Mr. Ash Montague, a person, a member of the gentry here in the town of Prosper. Prosper has been carved out of the wood and sits between the wood, the wilds, and the rest of human lands, I suppose you could call them, the rest of everywhere else. Within the wood are the Weirs, the original contract, and it had both the Weirs and the Daemons of the wilds, as well as the humans, negotiating this sort of neutral ground place. Of course, both the Wares and the Daemons would love to take over Prosper if they could, but us humans are stuck in the middle, and we are in the mix of things now. The story so far has been that we are raised in Prosper, though born elsewhere, to a pair of military parents who retired to Prosper. They died when we were very young, and our guardian, Monsieur Montague, raised us from then till the age of 12, where he sent us off to the city for schooling. And we have been in the city ever since. After we finished school, we became a bit of a gambler. We've got some gambling debts to deal with. Not that they've come up while we've been in Prosper, but unfortunately, our guardian died. Upon doing so, he left us a small little estate in Prosper, which we have been trying to liquidate so that we can return to the city and perhaps pay off our gambling debts in the process. However, since we've returned to Prosper, we've gotten caught up in a bunch of things. We have gone back into association with our childhood best friend Hippolyta. We have returned to dealing with the town gossip, Mistress Yocosta Smythe, and we've made some new friends along the way. Primarily two of the Grufford family, a Miss Danae Grufford and a Mr. Wren Grufford, who happens to be her cousin, not her brother, her cousin, who both live with a Mr. Roland Grufford, who we've considered going into business with, or rather allowing him to help us get around the whole complexity of putting our land stake into cash rather than into property. But having said property is what makes us gentry in the first place. We have been to a dance, been to a picnic. We've even suggested that the marked, those who are close to becoming the fallen, should perhaps get a bit of charity. And so we're heading up the charitable efforts, or rather, heading up putting that together. We have made friends with the Philosophy Club, as well as other members of the town council itself, and we have ended up woodbound to one of the Wares, an Arcana, a Miss Arcana. where we have duties to do that we don't exactly ever know what we're supposed to be doing until the time of it is upon us. We have slightly failed one, succeeded in another, but either way, our health has taken a hit in the process. We are now on our way to trying to settle all of the things that we must do in Chapter 7, The Limits. So I'm just going to briefly refresh my memory on what our stats are and go from there. So we are becoming solidly charismatic. Our intelligence is above average, but only slightly so, and we are as bold can be and hardly at all delicate. We do have a bit of empathy. We do feel for people solidly, but it's on the lower end. Um, we are slightly more shady than we are principled, with our subterfuge slightly higher. As you can see, our health has taken a hit. It started out at 100%, and it's now down to 71. We should probably be more careful. We have become a bit accomplished, solidly accomplished, and we're on the low end of sporty, but you know we can manage. As far as our reputation in town, we recently finished a duel with Mistress Yocasta Smythe, and so we are far more. We've become a bit more scandalous than respectable, but it's still moderately neutral. Just we should probably rein ourselves in a little bit. We have a decent amount of influence, and we've become a bit more dangerous since the duel. Our woodbound is slowly ticking down back to neutral as we finish our tasks, and our weird sense is only a bit of a dabble into the magics of this world. But we are solidly philanthropic for the moment. As far as our relationships go, we are decently friendly with the Weirs. I mean, they don't quite trust us yet, but they are friendly enough. The Daemons, however, are starting to mistrust us. We ran into some Fallen who were unburying something. We never did find out what, at least in this run. But yes, they are a little untrusting of us now. Our childhood best friend, Hippolyta, of course, adores us solidly. Colonel Ajax, the town magistrate, head of the town council, is reasonably impressed with us as well. We can solidly consider him an ally. Lady Eugene, the head of social society, seeing as she is a Wakeforth, um, is got her eyes on us in a friendly manner, but hasn't we haven't made friends with her, so to speak. Mr. Wren Grufford is the our pursuit. We chat has decided in an earlier chapter that we will be pursuing him to the end. So our love interest, Mr. Wren Grufford, but an alternate love interest, Miss Danae Grufford, his cousin, is also very fond of us as well. We've been kind of juggling the two of them so far. Naughty us. Um, Mr. Alcindor Wakeforth, a person who is also the only Wakeforth on the market currently, is friendly to us, slightly getting to the fond, but not exactly. Um, we haven't heavily pursued them at all. And then, of course, Mistress Yocasta Smythe was higher acquaintanced, or rather thought more well of us earlier, but we have since lost a duel to her, so she's not quite in the she's still just slightly more friendly than neutral at the moment, but she's persnickety to begin with. So with that said, we do have 47 spina to spend, which is a small amount of wealth. We started with 9. Um, so yes, we've raised our wealth and our standing in town heavily since the beginning, but it's not anywhere near the most wealthy in town. A respectable amount at the very least. So yes, that's where we start. Um, chapter 7. Whew, that was a lot to cover. Give me just a moment to take a drink, and then we will begin. All right. Prosper feels unsettled. The breeze is too stiff, the sunlight glancing off the roofs at odd angles. Everything feels crystalline, just off. Do you think this can be attributed to any particular cause? So, do we think, chat, that the Daemons are behind this, that the Weirs are behind this, or that Prosper's humans are to blame? Or perhaps the situation is just incredibly complicated, far more than we can sum up to one particular group or another? What do we think, chat? I don't know. I mean, this is our second run through the Weirwood story, and honestly, I think everyone's involved. The situation is incredibly complicated, is the choice we made in our last run through, and I still feel like that stands, honestly. I think the situation is incredibly complicated. Everyone's doing something. Trav votes for the Daemons. And seeing as Trav is the only one here, I guess we're going with the Daemons are behind this. That much is clear. Even thinking about them makes your blood boil. Out of the corner of your vision, a flash of crimson and vermilion, of coal black, spiked chariot wheels makes your heart stop and start again. A pale face, slender and sharp-chinned, surveying the street, is visible through the window. Your blood runs cold. A primal fear courses through your veins. Your mouth goes dry with the horror of recognition. It is the daemon from the assembly. 5 thralls, one at the box driving, 2 serving as footmen at the back, and the other 2 lumbering along behind the chariot, catch your gaze. Carriages crowd around you, forcing you into their wake. That 5th thrall, that one to the left, grayish and pinched. His face is known to you. A sudden memory of that rectangular object at the edge of town, which the thralls were trying so hard to conceal, comes to mind. It is difficult to discern the individual faces of the thralls. Those who are not so new minted all seem to have the same vague features, and yet you could swear that 1 or 2 of these were there that day. The street turns into a smaller lane, and the crush of the carriages on market day force you even closer in the chariot's wake. 2 of the thralls have most definitely seen you. How do we feel about this? Oof, oof, scary. Are we not concerned? Are we terrified? Are we overcome with utter disgust? Are we curious? Or are we wary, but overall calm? That is the question. How do we feel about this ending up in the understanding of the daemons and their thralls? Nasty things. Yes, Trav, they are absolutely nasty. We could most definitely go with disgust. They are terrifying. Goodness gracious. Yeah, I think we're just gonna find them disgusting. This is we sided with the daemons last time, so now we're just not about them at all. Not at all. One of the thrall's eyes suddenly turns from a watery gray to shiny black, like a smooth stone found at the bottom of a pond. The fallen grins at you, an expression so sharp, so present that it causes a jolt of energy to run through you. The daemon has taken notice of you. You wait with bated breath, but is no further sign. The black fades back into gray. The thrall's intensity loosens again into the soft, habitual expression that haunts the faces of the fallen. From then on, though you lose the chariot some ways off Beaker Street, it appears to be crisscrossing with your path, as if herding you. The fallen, in its retinue, lumber through the crowded streets, forcing you to stay close in the chariot's wake. Whichever way you turn, you're caught up among the thralls or skirting the vehicle's wheels. The botheration of it is you're headed toward the east gate yourself. You had intended to see the new milliner's shop at that part of town, although suddenly it seems much less important by comparison than whatever is happening now. Continuing alongside the chariot takes you closer to the wilds, perhaps past the milliner. At the city's edge, you stop and reevaluate. Here, there are no crowds, just you and that silent equipage. This is a chance to find out more about what is going on in Prosper, about the Daemons, and perhaps about yourself. And after all, there are no rules against following Daemons or of being seen with them. That much protects you. A presentiment grips you. It is vital that you see where this Daemon goes and what he does. Here, at the edge of town, not seizing the chance to investigate the Daemon seems improbable beyond belief. But why? Are we curious about the Daemons? Do we want to gain information to use against them, or do we want to save the town? Hmm, that is the question. Um, Technically, we are woodbound, so we have more reason to side with the Weirs at this point, considering they have been rather generous with us. Um, Generously bargaining with us, rather. But the Daemons are just as much a faction of Prosper as not. There are definitely rules that bind them. They're unable, seemingly, the Daemons themselves are seemingly unable to set foot in the land of Prosper, but their fallen servants do seem to do all that is required um, as they convey them around. Hmm. Hmm. What what shall we do? What shall we do? I want to go home. Four is not an option, unfortunately, Trav. You're going to have to do one through three. Um, personally, personally, I think we are just slightly curious about them. They are up to something. They are up to something. So it's between one and two, I think. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, we don't. We want to leave Prosper. We don't really. I mean, we want to be nice to the people who are here while we're here, but we do want to leave Prosper. So, um, we are not smart, but we are bold. Yes, we are bold. So you've decided that two is the best option. I guess we will go with two once again. I want to gain information to use against the Daemons. It stands to reason that there may be many secrets hidden here that you can use. If this daemon will allow you to follow him, then it would be foolish not to take the chance to gather information. After all, the offstage adage is true: knowledge is power. And you do not intend to let the daemons have a hair's more power to use against you than is necessary. You turn your steps toward the east, heading out of town. You keep a steady pace, methodically swerving behind carriages and trees to avoid being seen. Once out on the open road, your only recourse is to affect a casual air. It is your right to take a stroll along these roads, after all. You need not explain your journey's intent to any person. As soon as the chariot rolls past the town limits, the vehicle stops. There is a shuddering motion as the weight is shifted inside. Then the Daemon Lord himself descends from his chariot and steps onto the dirt road. You stop, too, you stop, too, stark against the blue sky. But your mind is caught up in the oddness of this. There's something strange in this. How do you figure out what it is? Do we observe keenly, though our intelligence is not that high? Do we feel into the daemon's intentions with our empathy? Or are we at least as tricky as the daemons and too can play at that game? Our subterfuge is fairly neutral, as I recall. So, um, yes. Observe, feel, or trick. What shall we do? We're not entirely all that smart. We are a bit more empathetic than not, and we're bold, but not necessarily the type to subterfuge, so we are not really that tricky either. What shall we do, Trav? What shall we do? Yes, none of these are our strengths, but two is probably our best option to do anything. So you close your eyes and drop your awareness into your belly, paying no attention to the scene before you. Something is off, and your body knows what it is, even if your mind does not. Your eyes fly open. You have it. The truth is reinforced by what you see. You have never seen a daemon set foot on prosper ground, never in all your life. For the daemons are habitually surrounded by their retinue. They are always, always in chariots, or else carried in bath chairs by the fallen. You had assumed it was an affectation to power. It certainly renders them aloof enough from the humans of the town, and reinforces the dread that strikes most hearts at the sight of them. But clearly, there is some deeper meaning behind this, some greater reason that the spiky chariots are ubiquitous in town, but the daemons are always conveyed or carried about. There must be some enchantment that prevents them from setting foot upon prosperous ground. How could it be that simple? Nobody has ever spoken to this, to your knowledge, and yet. Your thoughts are cut short by the sudden chill of someone's eyes upon you. The daemon has turned and is looking at you, dark eyes glittering, and you freeze in the intensity of his gaze. Caught. Why, this is unexpected, the daemon says dryly. It is not often that one such as I boasts the honor of entertaining one such as you. Allow me to present myself, in the absence of a common acquaintance. You may call me Malachite. He pronounces with a flourish. And whom do I have the honor of addressing? I am Ash Montague, you say hastily. Interesting. Montague's heir. Is it so? Well, well, you've quite caught my curiosity. Can I assist you in some way, or do you prefer to deal with the woodkin? Somehow, he manages to make this epithet for the Weirs into a derogatory slur. Your thoughts race. A great many questions have arisen just from this last statement. How did this daemon know your guardian? Did he ever have dealings with them? And, if so, what kind? Or perhaps Malachite is just trying to get a rise out of you by dropping bits of information calculated to spark your interest. But perhaps this daemon is far more well informed than you had thought they generally were about an individual's doings, for that mention of the Weirs was extremely pointed. And then there is the matter of the offer of help. Such a phrase cannot be mere politeness. It was weighted with magical import. This is a proposal, no less, of opening a certain door of communication and exchange. The question is it a door you wish to go through? Demons are tricky, without a doubt. Accepting a favor from this one, whatever his motives may be, will open you up to being daemon held, influenced. For a favor from this sort always entails obligation. However, daemons have indisputable power that is wholly different from anything human could manufacture. With a daemon's aid, you could rise far above your station in society, achieve in moments the sort of rank it could take years to cement on your own. You could gain knowledge far beyond human compass. Or, in a breath, you could be freed from your bargain with the Weirs without further consequences from that end. Nobody else could circumvent the rules of that particular bargain. If you are wise, perhaps you will ask for nothing or gain more information first. The daemon's look, however, is intent. He will like you more, you sense, if you agree from the first or refuse altogether. So, what will it be? Do we ask for help, refuse politely, sense what is really going on and redirect the conversation, or redirect the conversation by asking a pointed question? Yes, no, intuition, or I think intelligence, or perhaps weird sense. Not entirely certain. Let's see, is anything here changed? No and no. Hmm. 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 What do we do? Let's not play Damon games, but we can be polite about it. All right, all right. We shall refuse politely, because, he will like us more for it, I guess. do not think so, you say, too abruptly for politeness. Malachite's genteel smile turns into a frown, and he raises a thin brow. Indeed. His tone is a good deal colder than it was a moment ago. One would think you don't wish to further the acquaintance. That is hard. I do not throw myself into communication with humans unless they seem to hold promise, but perhaps I was mistaken. It can happen, sometimes. You try to mitigate the slight. No, indeed, I did not mean. That is to say, I simply do not require assistance with anything at this time. Malachite appears to have made up his mind. In a sound that raises the hair on the back of your neck, he chuckles. You are most welcome to call upon me later, if you dare, Malachite says. It is so rare that I am treated with such distinguished company, and I should very much like to show you our world. Do you accept the offer of calling upon Malachite, in earnest or for politeness sake? So we can accept with no intention of going, accept in earnest because it could be interesting, accept eagerly because we want to know more about the daemons, refuse outright, or just simply run away, bravely run away. What do we think? What do we think, chat? So we wish to refuse outright, so as not to play daemon games. All right, we can do that. Refusing outright. It is. It is. No, thank you, you say, and leave it at that. There is no need to explain in such company. The daemon does not seem to take it amiss. He merely chuckles and sends you on your way. Upon returning home, you head upstairs to consider what you have witnessed and to ponder its meaning. If nothing else, those brief moments of conversation have given you a better apprehension of the daemons and their world. It is a thing wholly different to the cool entanglement of the wood, or the manners and bustle of town. The daemons have rules that are all their own, it is clear. However difficult they may be for the human mind to comprehend, there is a logic there, however strange. A high, thin chime rings out, startling you in your work. It takes a moment to calm your breath, to realize that, this time, the disturbance is nothing preternatural, simply the door below. The sound of Bruno opening the door reaches your ears. He says something, and a lady's voice responds in a low murmur. You can't quite make out who it is. You brush off your reverie and descend, quietly, in case it is someone you do not wish to see. Bruno meets you in the hallways. Miss Grufford is here, Bruno says, eyeing you curiously. I put her in the drawing room. Do we not wish to see her? Are we eager to see her, or do we wonder what she wants? 1, 2, or 3. What shall it be? She is definitely not our darling, yes. I wonder what she wants. Now that is interesting. Um, 1 second. My apologies. I will be with us again in a sec. Cool. Now that is interesting, you say. I wonder what she can want. That she would come all the way out here for a call. Surely not merely the pleasure of your company, monsieur? Bruno bows and turns away before you can see his face. Difficult to tell whether the comment was intended as a rebuke or a jest. You go in to greet her. Danae's cheeks go pink as you enter, and she rises hastily from the seat by the window. Monsieur Montague, she says. This is a pleasant surprise, you say, and gesture for her to sit again. Danae makes a remark so inane you cannot hold it in your head. She seems troubled, her gaze moving around the imported oak and weave furnishings, which, truth be told, are a trifle dustier than you would like. You go through the necessary niceties for about a quarter of an hour, but it is soon evident that this is more than a simple social visit. Danae has a particular purpose in coming here today. Do we ask her outright what it is, commiserate with her, or allude to a deeper meaning and let her respond? To be frank, we are bold, so asking outright is more in our character at this moment than it otherwise would be. If we commiserate with her, it will. We've done it in the past to good effect, and she responds well to commiseration. And of course, we could, of course, lead her on a bit, and with our alluding to a deeper meaning as well. Trav says one. It looks like today we will just ask her outright, what is going on? What is it? What is it? Miss Grufford, if I may ask, what is the intention of your visit? I know it cannot be simply to discuss the weather or to call out of politeness sake. She appears surprised, but grateful to be addressed with such honest candor. Danae bites her lip and draws a deep breath before speaking again. In truth, there is something particular I wish to ask you about, if I may. Your silence is invitation enough. She looks around and presses her lips together and continues. I would like your advice on a particular matter. It is a matter of utmost discretion. So we can respond with the very bold and brusque, let's hear it then. We can reassure her with, you can depend upon my silence, or we can inquire in concern, are you certain I'm the person you wish to ask then? How shall we respond to her matter of utmost discretion? One, two, or three? We have not spilled anyone's secrets, that is certain, yes. So you can depend upon my silence. She smiles. Thank you. She glances around and edges closer. My father, she stops, wishes to engage me to a man I do not wish to marry. In fact, I am already engaged. I could not prevent it from happening. It all came together so quickly and without my knowledge. But she stops. I'm sorry. I'm not explaining it at all well. I have just found out that this is intended, and in truth, I do not know what to do. And you do not wish to marry this person, you repeat, seeking to understand the nuances of the situation. She shakes her head vehemently. I do not love him. I hate him. I cannot stand the sight of him. But it is complicated, due to family politics, so I must ask for your help. Perhaps, if you would speak to my father and explain that which it is not wholly proper for me to explain, I should forever be grateful. An outdated custom. You consider for a moment the implications of her words. What do you most need to know? Do we know who this person is? Why it has been kept secret? Or do we know everything that we need to know and we'd like to move on with the conversation? What shall we do? That's fair, Trev. We might have to ask, might have to do something about this person. So, who is this person? To whom you are promised, you ask. Her face grows still, and this is more alarming than any tears would be. It is clear that a colossal struggle is happening beneath the surface. It is a business associate of my father, a Mr. Tunbridge. She closes her eyes for a moment as if overwhelmed by it all. I cannot say anything strong enough that will convince you of his unsuitability for me. He is generally well respected among certain circles in the city, not among genteel circles, to be sure. I have met him not above 4 or 5 times, and he. Her voice grows ragged, and she buries her face in her hands for a moment. When she sits up again, she looks outwardly more composed, though the intensity of her words belies her careful expression. I have no evidence, but I do believe him to be vicious in a certain way. But I cannot say how. One cannot slander a man for a certain aspect in the eyes, a certain coldness or cruelty in his behavior towards his servants and those lacking his respect. I cannot say anything at all, for there is no proof. There is no proof. Just a feeling that I cannot marry him. She exhales deeply and meets your gaze again. Please say that you will help me. You consider for a moment the implications of her words. What do you most need to know? Do we want to know why this engagement has been kept a secret, or do we not care why? We just are good to do something about it. What shall we do? More information gathering, or are we good with what we know? More info it is. May I ask why this has not been more generally known? Her face creases as if attempting not to cry, and she actually wrings her hands. It is my father's doing. It all happened so quickly. First, it was threatened, then I heard not a word about it, so I thought that he had discarded his idea. I fought it from the beginning, she says, and now her eyes do fill with tears. But then, just when I could draw a breath, he told me he was in negotiations already with the family. Negotiations! As if I were property or a piece of furniture to bargain for. He told me it had been fixed since last year, then I, but when I spoke to him, the contract had only just been drawn, and I don't dare to oppose him. You must help me. You consider for a moment the implications of her words. What do you most need to know? Nothing more, I think. That's our only option, so off we go. And you consider what to do. Do we offer to elope with her as a joke? Do we try to help her disentangle it? Do we reproach her for not taking control of her own life, or do we politely decline to interfere? As a reminder, we are a bold and impetuous person, and we have encouraged her to rebel early on in the chapters. So perhaps a little bit of scolding might be in character for us, but one, two, three, or four, any option is a correct option. Well, it's an option. Hi, Winter Fairy. Welcome back from the store. It's nice to have you. Lovely to see you again today. You may recall from our first run that Miss Danae Grufford asks us at one point to interfere in her engagement, and we are in the midst of making that decision. So you've seen this section before. Don't worry, you haven't missed anything you've not seen before. Um, So Trav is voting for two, and I guess so are you. So it looks like we will help her to disentangle her engagement once again. I will do everything in my power to help you resolve this, you say. It will take some care and planning, but there must be a way to free her from this antiquated practice. She smiles at you, eyes squeezed shut in evident relief. Thank you. You are very good. It is as though a dark cloud has been lifted from you both. However much your help will affect, she evidently seems to feel much better knowing that you are on her side. You slip into easy conversation and spend a very pleasant half hour discussing the various habits peculiar to Prosper that Danae found diverting upon first arriving. Indeed, now that you are better acquainted with each other, it is quite easy to talk to her. When she leaves, it is with real regret. She's our friend. Danae Grufford's visit, such as it was, has led you to thinking, if you are to succeed at all in society, you must host some event here at home, rather than just constantly visiting others' events. And if the other gentry know something about the daemon's bizarre behavior, only special circumstances could induce them to reveal it. It need not be an elaborate affair, but something that will be diverting and gather your potential friends and allies, and perhaps some enemies together in one place. A small gathering will be just the thing, but uh, what is one thing, how is quite another. This event must show off your best skills and accomplishments, as well as make you shine as host. First of all, you must decide whom else you will invite. Certainly, at least one or two of the council members. It is only appropriate, after all. But who? Hey, neurological, welcome in, welcome in. Yes, you may not have much of your break left, but yes, you showed up, and I appreciate you showing. So welcome in. I know you may not be able to stay long because the work life must uh, be before the fun times. But yeah, feel free to drop in and catch the VOD later if you'd like. I appreciate you being here, though. I do, I do, I do. However, we must decide who we will invite to our gathering. Do we invite the philosophers and the intellectual elite? Even though our intelligence isn't low, we do know a certain Mr. Wren Grufford is amongst that crowd. We could, of course, invite the popular members of the assembly set, um, seeing as those will be more towards our aims in either the engagement issue or our aims in the philanthropic issue. Or we could invite the artists because we are quite artistic ourselves, and they would be more our peeps, really. Um, but yes, Winter Fairy, as you recall in our first run, we did go with the artists and had a grand old time. I believe that if we want to further our things along with Ren and really lock him down, we probably do need to do number one. So the ones have it at this point. So we will invite the philosophers and the intellectual elite. You've not seen them in quite some time, not since that first meet. A smile quirks your lips as you remember them. Armitage, Esterling, the incisive Miss Jorham, and Wren. How could you forget him? You have quite thirsted for real conversation in their absence, truth to tell. You make certain to invite Alcindor. A shiver runs through your body thinking of them. You wonder what they will think of your home. You must endeavor to present it to its best advantage. You dash off invitations to the appropriate persons, but how are we feeling about the party? So, are we excited to show off our skills? Are we resigned to the gathering? Do we have keen anticipation of having company over, or is it simply our duty? One, two, three, or four. Excited, resigned, keen, or neutral. Winter Fairy has started us off with a three. Anyone else have an opinion on how we feel about our party, our upcoming party? Trav says four. Can't we go to someone else's place? But no, they have to come here, and we're totally not set up for a party. I think that's your introvert talking, Trav. And while I agree, as a fellow introvert, I'm gonna I'm gonna veto vote this into keen anticipation because we do dearly wish to speak with Ren some more when we are keenly anticipating his company in particular. That was the chat vote. I didn't make that rule. Actually, I did, but that's okay. Whatever else you accomplish, this event will certainly make everyone at least pretend to be conciliatory. You spend some days dusting and making preparations, with Bruno for company. The house is in passable condition, but still has a forlorn air. It will be the first airing since the funeral, Bruno says mournfully. You are not there. The thought settles at the back of your head for some time before you shake it off. You will need some help. At your guardians' parties, there was the whole house of staff to assist. Now you have only Bruno. And with affairs as they are, it is too short a time to engage new servants by yourself. You need someone's expert opinion, or perhaps a loan of their own trusted household help. But hiring help will cost spina. So, how many servants? Yes, we still have 47, but how many servants will we hire with our 47 spina, knowing that we also have to spend on um, other things? So, we could get 2 servants for 3 spina, 4 servants and a cook for 8, or 2 servants and a cook for 5. We could, of course, ask our bestie, Hippolyta, for a loan of some of her servants, trusting that her people would be amenable to it. Or we could do no servants and do everything ourselves. But we're decently we have some money, so we could just do our own. However, Hippolyta and us are besties. We could just be like, "Hey, bestie, help me out. It's been a while. Like I've never thrown a party. I need some of your peeps." I mean, yes. However, Trav, do remember that the less spina we spend, the more money we have when we leave. Just FYI. Yes, our friendship with Hippolyta is really good. So, just to show you, um, we're practically an 80% here with our dear bestie Hippolyta, and we do have 47 spina, as you can see. So, back to the thing. We could ask her for help. Um, Trav says spend. Winter Fairy says for. We've never actually had this option before. We were not nearly as in good with Hippolyta in our last run. We were very neutral with each other by this point. So I actually think asking her for a loan might be a good idea in this point, and so that's my vote. She offered a long time ago and is more than happy to honor her offer. Now that the staff is acquired, the question of the decorations, the mood, and most importantly, the activities that the guests can experience is at hand. What sort of party will we have? Will we have an active outdoor affair, a genteel dinner party, or a musical soiree? Now, we did the musical soiree last time, and it went over well. But as much as we are very artistically talented in and of ourselves, and we do have Elsindor Wakeforth coming, this is primarily the intellectuals that are coming to our affair. So an active outdoor affair might not be the best idea. For a different set, certainly, but not this one. And the musical soiree will not engage them the way that they would prefer. So a genteel dinner party is my recommendation, and I'm glad that Winter Fairy agrees with me. Is there a consensus, though? Will Trav also agree? Yes. Brandy and cigars and good food. The sort of gathering where everyone can hear each other's conversation and the focus is on the food, perfect for drawing out secrets. You have a great deal to do. With an event of this type, the food takes center stage. The decorations and the quality and the arrangement of the spread are the most important aspects towards ensuring that your guests have a good time. The finest food and drink, of course, are imported, and therefore more costly. The same goes for ingredients of good quality from here in Prosper. The market is not what it once was. If you are persuasive enough, though, you can endeavor to have your staff make their specialties, making more from less. So, our persuasive is fairly decent. Our charisma is a nice number right here. So we're actually pretty decent at it. We could, of course, pay 3 spina for imported food. We could buy good ingredients from the local market for much less, or we could convince the staff to make something quite special, which will cost us even less because we will be doing more with less. So 1, 2, or 3. Import, local, or special. Pay for quality, says Trav. I can't say I don't agree. If we go all out, we will be far more impressive, especially for the company that we intend to keep, and we can easily afford one. Um, Winter Fairy wants to try number three, though. I actually think we did three last time, Winter Fairy, if I recall correctly, because we were very much more charismatic in our first run. We went the full on charisma route. So I actually think paying for it, especially considering we end up with 44 spin at the end, which is still a small fortune. I actually think that might go over better. We will be very impressive, and perhaps Ren will like us a little more for having splurged. The cost is undeniable, but so too is the quality. You order exotic fruits and fine delicacies, and it is certain that no one in Prosper will have tasted a more delicious repast in recent memory. The preparations take you a good part of the day, but when you are through, the house is ready. Now everything is arranged. You step back and admire your handiwork as they arrive. The first guests arrive. The intellectual elite of Prosper arrive variously, some in carriages and dog carts, others on foot or horseback. They are clad most elegant, though sometimes eccentric fashions, dinner jackets and muted colors, high-collared gowns and shirts, skirts with sharp-cut trains or ruffles. This was sometimes the sort of company that your guardian would host on those rare occasions that they did organize events. Vague memories of the chink of glasses and earnest discourse drift back to your mind. This is a new day, you remind yourself. Whatever happens for this evening, they bring life and spirit into this empty place, and that is something. You greet them and send them into the drawing room to begin with. Once everyone has arrived, you repair to the dining room, where refreshments are laid out. Quite a transformation has been wrought on the dusty furnishings. The room now speaks of grandeur and elegance rather than sorrow and neglect. The subject on many people's lips, now that everyone has arrived and comfortably engaged in conversation, is the fate of Melantho Ferrier. You catch edges of the news as you pass through the room. Disappeared. The whole Ferrier house in disarray, from what I hear, though, of course, I have not been there myself, since the whole family is so far on the way to being marked. I heard that the misguided creature attempted to revive one of the fallen, rode all the way to 9 Mile in a dog cart with the former member of our company in tow, just to see if the enchantment wore off by distance. It seems that, whatever else her endeavors, Miss Ferrier has not left off her rebellious ways. You think again of that green-tinted glassy stare and shudder. To be marked, shunned by polite society, is not a fate to be wished upon anyone. Alcindor is here, resplendent in deep green and gray. You smile at them and are rewarded with a dazzling grin. Good evening, Alcindor says, a trifle nervously, trying ineffectively to conceal a small package. Good evening, you reply. How lovely to see you. It is a handsome house, comes the sober reply. I'm sorry we were not acquainted earlier. Before your guardian passed away, Alcindor means. Before you went to school. Alcindor looks down, evidently regretting bringing up such sorrowful matters. I am sorry. Here. Alcindor pulls out the package awkwardly and presents it to you. I thought you might wish to see it. It is a rectangular object wrapped in brown paper. It is one of your paintings. It is not a great thing, just a small thing. I beg you would not open it here. But that is most kind of you. Alcindor shuffles under your thanks and mumbles an excuse, but seems pleased. You find Bruno. He takes the package to put upstairs without comment. What will you do? Well, we did have a very animated conversation very early on in the assembly, where we talked about art, and well, it seems that he remembers fondly that conversation. And although we have hardly spoken of to him much since, has brought us a gift anyway. So that was very sweet of him indeed. We are not pursuing Elsindor, but it was very sweet of him. So what will we do for our guests? Will we play some music, since we are creatively inclined? Will we serve the dinner? Will we ask about daemon activities or talk about our proposal to change the gentry's treatment of the marked? Or will we just simply be sociable? Winter Fairy says must be sociable. I mean, we did invite them. We are the host. Being sociable is the polite thing to do. Does Trav agree? All right, we shall start off the evening as being sociable. You walk around and greet your guests, dipping in and out of conversations. Wherever you walk, jovial conversation and laughter follow. You are pleased to give cheer where you can, and you are genuinely delighted to see your guests enjoying themselves. This is a gathering worthy of your guardian's house. So, what shall we do next? Shall we play some music? Shall we serve the dinner? Shall we ask about daemons, or shall we talk about our proposal? We absolutely probably should at some point talk about the proposal because that is something that we are in the midst of. Asking about the daemons, we're not really siding with them this time, and as much as knowing what they are doing might be something we should look into, it's not that big a deal right now. We will have to serve the dinner at some point, otherwise, what was the point of our entire event? And playing for guests, we absolutely could. We are creatively inclined, of course. I don't know if that shows in the stats. Let's see here. We are decently accomplished. I think that's where that. I believe that's what that is tagged to is accomplishment, which is reading or it is poetry, musical instruments, that kind of painting, that sort of stuff are the accomplishments that we have. So I believe that is the stat that has affected that, and we are decently accomplished. So playing should go over well. I mean, 60% plus seems to be at least somewhat accomplished. So Trav says 1, and Winter Fairy does agree. So we shall play for our guests. A space is cleared for dancing, and you begin an impromptu set on the little virginal. It is old and tinny, but light enough to be carried throughout the house and even outdoors if necessary. Bruno has dug up several old instruments from your guardian's store cupboard somewhere and put them in playing condition. Soon you have an impromptu trio playing in no time. It is not the highest of art music, but perfectly suitable for a gathering such as this. Dancers spin and turn in time to your music, and spirits are high. Hippolyta accosts you at the sideboard. You are acting very strangely this evening, she hisses to you under her breath. Is something wrong? Typical of her, this blend of kindness and absolute disregard for the rules governing polite communication. You meet her gaze. She won't accept a weak reply, it seems clear. But this is already a fraught social situation, not at all the place to air your suspicions. How do we respond? Do we demur? Do we invent something innoxious that won't harm our reputation? Do we convince her that we are behaving normally, or do we confide in her? Well, I believe 4 has the votes. We will be confiding with her right here in the sideboard, regardless. Her intent, open expression, makes something inside you fold. Oh, Hippolyta, I have so much to tell you. There is something terrible going on in Prosper with the daemons. Tell me. Quickly you relay what you have seen and concluded of Malachite and of the strange behavior of the thralls. I fear that if we do not find a way to balance this, that everything will be lost, you say. I hardly know what to say, she replies after a moment, looking very worried indeed. But you believe me? Her eyes widen. But of course. Another guest jostles her elbow, and you both recollect where you are. I must think on this. You are right. There must be something that we can do. She touches your arm lightly. Take heart. All is not lost. We will think of something together. You run into your solicitor in the press of the crowd. Mr. Hallwood, it's so good of you to come, you exclaim. He greets you with a solemn nod. His already melancholic disposition seems to be turning even more and more towards the morose. It is good to see this place alive, he comments. He looks around and lowers his already quiet voice even further. I spoke with Mr. Grufford. He indicated to me that you may be pursuing some sort of alternative scheme. Before you can answer, Mr. Roland Grufford himself appears from behind Hallwood. He claps you on the shoulder. That's right, old chap, leave it to me. He winks, and you suppress an involuntary shudder. Is this correct? Will you take up Grufford's offer to hire a broker or keep things as they are? This scheme is not precisely illegal, but not strictly lawful either. And it means more business tied up with Grufford. But if it helps you get your inheritance sooner, do we feign enthusiastic agreement? Do we reluctantly agree? Do we tell him no for moral reasons or tell him no for our own reasons? This decision makes or breaks whether or not we use a broker to gain our wealth and get out of Prosper. Um, you make a good point, Trav. Feigning enthusiastic agreement might be the way to go, or we could reluctantly agree and make Mr. Hallwood feel a little better. I don't believe either of the no's is a good idea here, but it's up to chat. Tell me, tell me, tell me, tell me. What do you think, guys? What do you think? One, two, three, or four? What is the consensus? I mean, we are charismatic enough to perhaps feign enthusiasm, even if we are lying badly. But yes, the ones have it. We feign enthusiastic agreement. You are ambivalent about the scheme itself. However, you widen your eyes and nod, smiling. But of course, how could I do otherwise when such an opportunity presents itself? Grufford chuckles and claps you on the arm again. That's the spirit. Hallwood's mouth thins and he looks disappointed. I see. Well, I know nothing of such matters, so I cannot advise you. But we will continue to work towards your goal, although all the channels that our skill and knowledge, through all the channels that our skill and knowledge, he looks slightly at Grufford, allow. You go to see your other guests. There we go. Alcindor stands in the corner, painfully correct. You catch their eye. The youngest Wakeforth admittedly looks pained in such formal company, albeit politely covering any boredom. Do we invite Alcindor to dance? Do we show Alcindor the art collection, or do we return to the main party? This is our chance to spend more time with the Wakeforth heir. And we know he's an artist himself because he gifted us one of his paintings. Winter Fairies is all ready to show him the art collection. And yes, Trav, we do know that he will enjoy it the most. So I agree. We're going to show him the art collection. You wander closer and greet them amiably. What do you think of the paintings? My guardian was fond of art, though I cannot vouch for the quality, you say. Alcindor looks grateful for the chance to speak of something besides small talk. Indeed, I have been admiring the paintings in your front hall. They are very good work. You've nothing to fear, Miss Eyre. This is your opportunity. There are more paintings, landscapes, and portraits of the family in the gallery. Would you care to see them? Alcindor looks momentarily surprised, then smiles. I should like nothing better, thank you. You cannot be absent long from your other guests, and yet this is the perfect opportunity to get some air and to spend some time with Alcindor. You steal away to the upper hall, the gallery. Alcindor spends a few moments studying the portraits and landscapes in detail. Some are older than Prosper, others quite new. There is a delicate portrait of your guardian closest to the door. It did not quite capture all their features, but certainly holds something of their mood, and certain details are exact to life. The sober, thoughtful expression that was their wont, the wistful slant of the eyebrows, all in sweeping brushstroke. Alcindor appraises this portrait longer than the others, and nods slightly to you, acknowledging your loss. There is no need for words, and silence pays greater respect than obligatory sentences would in this moment. It is a thing that endears the Wakeforth scion to you even more. Towards the other end of the hall, there is a series of carnal paintings in dreamy colors, all muted blue, or I'm sorry, canal paintings. Goodness, my head is in the gutter. in dreamy colors, all muted blues and soft limestone tans. This is exquisite, Alcindor says, studying it. I thank you. It is time to return to the party, but the earnestness in their voice nearly undoes you. A person could fall for them just from that heartfelt, quiet thank you. Yes, shut up. I am aware that I stumbled over that and right into the gutter. Whoopsie daisies. My own personal bias is showing. Um, there is a newfound closeness between you two, which is quite beyond the conspiratorial knowledge of your excursion. Something new and real has been reached that can never be lost. So, what will we do? Will we serve the dinner, ask about the daemon activities, or change the gentry's treatment of the marked? I agree, Winter Fairy, but I do not know if once we serve the dinner, we are unable to do any of the other things. It might be better to go talking to people before the dinner, because I think the dinner is what pushes us forward in time. I could be mistaken, of course. Um, but we absolutely should at least further our proposal a little bit, if we can, before the dinner, I think. The daemon activities I could care less about, but yeah, I think we're going to try to talk before food, because I'm pretty sure that once the food hits, it seemed like we could no longer continue our gathering last time as soon as we put the entertainment out, because we did the musical soiree last time. So let's get all of our business off the table. We actually did talk to the colonel and offer it to him, and then he's the one who pushed us to head it because it was our idea, Trav. It wasn't that it was his idea and he put us in charge of it. It was quite literally, hey, I have a proposal. What do you think of it? And then he put it on the floor saying, hey, you came up with this proposal, and because you came up with it, you're in charge of it now. Yeah, but it was our proposal to begin with, Trav, is the understanding of the writing. So we're going to talk about the change of the gentry's treatment to the marked. You find the council members and engage them in cheerful conversation. Once you have accepted their compliments on your hospitality and extend your own, there's an opening to turn the talk back to your proposal. So, what do we ask? Do we ask for assistance in the work? Do we ask for help persuading the mayor? Or do we ask for funds relying on our influence? We have an influence that is, I believe, at 70%. I could check it, really. So, asking for help is the charisma route. 75% influence is the third choice. And asking for help persuading the mayor, I think, is the intelligence route, which, I mean, it's 59%. That could also be the respectable route. Not entirely certain. But yeah, our influence is actually pretty good for this one. So 1, 2, or 3, chat. What should we do? Indeed. We can't fund it all by ourselves, no matter what we want. All right. We will ask for funds relying on our influence. Have you given any thought to my proposal? You ask to those around you at large. I am impatient to begin work, but I have need of assistance. It is necessary to raise funds towards the project, and, as you know, time is of the utmost essence. Heads nod. A few council members look uncomfortable at your words, but they are outnumbered by expressions of support. I, for one, would be happy to contribute, and to find others willing to do so as well, says Miss Eyre Grey, a distinguished-looking person. You both beam. That is exceedingly good of you. Nonsense! This town has been waiting for an idea of this sort to bring us forward into this century, Miss Eyre Grey says brightly. It is my honor. Once one person has spoken in your support, others are equally forthcoming with pledges to contribute. A warm feeling floods your chest. It seems you really will be able to make a difference. As your guests depart, you scrutinize their faces carefully for signs of the evening's success. A successful event is one that will leave them talking for days and even weeks to come, and will elevate you and render you more respectable in the eyes of society. You hear many of them enthusing about your hospitality. You receive many compliments and genuine expressions of delight from those saying their goodbyes. Likely, you will soon be the talk of the town and receive many invitations to call. The house has weathered the party fairly well. There are certainly drink stains on the tablecloths and spilled pastries here and there, but no principal damage, which seems a mark of success. The tables and chairs must be put to rights, however. Hippolyta is one of the last guests to leave. She touches one of the misplaced tables and levels you with a pointed glance. Thank you, Ash. I enjoyed that. She seems in earnest. Would you like some help? She says. It is difficult when one is alone to put a place to rights. Is there some deeper meaning in her words? So, do we think that she is far more forward? Do we think she's just being our kind friend? Do we know that there is something more to her words, but we're like, no, thank you? Or do we just not know what to think? 1, 2, 3, or 4? So, to break it down, the spicy option, yes, friend zone. The spicy option, no, or I don't know. What shall we pick? Okay, Winter Fairy, I'll be here. Give your love to your son for us, of course, as always. So Winter Fairy is saying the spicy route. Trav, what do you think? Yes, it will probably end in tears, but the deeper meaning is definitely there and it warms us. What about Francis? You ask. Will he not wonder where you are? Hippolyta's eyes widen and she suppresses a smile. You get the sense that she is barely restraining herself from throwing her head back and laughing at your naive question. Ah, my dear, perhaps you did not know. I forget that we are quite notorious in this region, but you have been away. No, we have a very good understanding about these things with each other. I love him dearly. You have not to fear. What to make of this speech? And moreover, what to do? You hesitate for a moment, thinking of Alcindor. The moment between you and Hippolyta is drawing you two together, but there are other ties which, though unspoken, claim your affections. However, as someone with the soul of an artist, doubtless Alcindor will understand that you and Hippolyta have a special connection, which is unlike that of any other person. You cannot be measured in common terms. Many things are possible where there is clear communication and a capacity for understanding. If your relationship is based on trust, there may be no ill feelings for staying in this moment, however it ends. Or perhaps there will be no need to tell them, in any case. It is up to you. So, do we want help? Do we wish for her company more than help? Do we want to be alone right now? Or do we not want her company at all? That's a good question, Trav. What is our relationship with Elsindor after? Oof, look at this. Look at this. This is ridiculous. Everybody loves us. Hippolyta is at 79%, Ren and Danae are both at 80, and Alcindor Wakeforth is at 67%, and we're not even pursuing him. Them, I should say. Goodness. Um, but he did come to our party and give us a gift. So he is, I should say, Alcindor, they are into us, whether or not we are into them. So, what do we want to do about Hippolyta? That is the question on the table. Two. Two is the vote. We wish for her company more than the help. I thank you. You are most welcome to stay as long as you please, you say. It's good to see you. You and Hippolyta work together to clear away the furniture and put the place to rights. Perhaps it is your imagination, but sometimes her eyes linger upon you, and sometimes she brushes too close for politeness. Her skin is warm. How do you respond? Do we respond lovingly? Do we draw back, shy? Or do we draw the line at friendship? So spicy time, trepidatious, maybe not, spicy time, or friend zone? This is our options. What shall we do, dear friends? Oh, Trav. Oh, Trav. Play innocent. I no. It does not mean that she wants a cold drink, no. 1, 2, or 3, what shall we do? Number 1, it'll end in tears. Well, we'll find out, won't we? We're going to respond lovingly. You catch her gaze and smile in turn, willing to play along. There is a special light in her eyes, a golden thread that wraps you close together and kindles a warmth behind your breastbone. She keeps looking at you intently, with less and less playfulness each time, as if she expects you to do something. And indeed, you can see her longing, as if it were imprinted upon her brow. It is in the length of her gazes and the tenderness with which she speaks your name. Do you make the first move? So we could very politely ask to kiss her. We could just simply embrace her, or we could turn away and decide not. Um, we did ask to kiss her last time, and she went, "Oh, you expected me to make the first move," and got mad at us. Our relationship stat with her was much lower last run, so it might actually work out, but she seems to want us to make the first move, so number 2 would be that, and Trav agrees. Yes, she is acting rather than requesting. So it looks like we will be pulling her into an embrace. You edge nearer to her. She gives you a sweet smile and folds herself into your arms. It is good to embrace this dear friend of yours, past the bounds of propriety. After a time, she draws away, eyes wet. I must be getting home, she whispers. It is good to have you back home in Prosper Ash. She bundles herself in her coat and departs. After all the company has left, the house is very quiet. Somewhere you can sense Bruno moving about, doing his customary nighttime lockup. You are alone. You have reached the limits of sense, you think, as you drift off to sleep. The time has come to decide what you really believe. End of the chapter. Chapter 8, The Charter. Oof. So, here we are. We have made ourselves a bit more respectable than scandalous again after our party. Our influence is getting pretty high, and our philanthropy has gone up a bit as well. Um, our relationships are startlingly high as well. all things considered, and we've only lost 3 spina for the entirety of that very posh party, which is not bad, not bad at all. Um, we are bold and a bit duplicitous. Bit we've actually gotten to the point where we are good at lying. Not very good at lying, but good all the same. So we have managed to move things forward. We are firmly in the end game now. Time to make decisions on the how we will help or hinder Prosper itself. So, Chapter 8, the Charter. Morning slips through your window, soft as the barest touch of silk. Your mind rings with the memory of the Daemon Malachite's gaze. Weird, disjointed fragments of speech drift through your mind. There are more pieces here to be connected, that is certain. Another thought hits you then. Danae. You wince inwardly, thinking of her situation and of your promise. There is much to do in little time. You must speak with those responsible and with those who have authority in town. They may help untangle this mess if your words alone cannot suffice. Perhaps Lady Eugene or Colonel Ajax can lend their considerable influence on the matter. You rise and prepare for the day. There are a great many things set in motion, and the sinking sensation in your stomach tells you that there is no way to control or even see them all. As you go outside, a wave as strong as a voice shouting in your ear rolls through you. You stagger. It is as strong as the ringing of many bells. You clamp your hands over your ears, and yet the sensation remains relentless. There is no physical sound. This is something hitting you from within. After a moment, it passes. You look around. There is no one present, and yet, now, the green spines hooking into your chest are those of the wood. The tree closest to you was giving you this information. You walk towards it, and the sensation of being hooked like a fish on a line diminishes. You pause, and it grows stronger. The heaviness in the air speaks of finality. Perhaps, once this task is completed, your bargain will be won. So, do we perform it eagerly? Do we perform the task feigning eagerness, or do we perform it honorably? I believe Trav already says 3 because we owe a debt, and it is true. We owe. We made the bargain and we must do. So 3, we will perform it honorably. This task comes upon you fully formed. You can feel it from the start. It is no impulse to take something somewhere, nor is it a compulsion to break into a building, but a tingling arising in your feet and moving up your body soon forces you to walk a few paces west. Then the movement hooks you in a different direction, and you begin to understand. Then back again to your initial position. You are creating a Every time you try to look at it, a burst of light imposes itself behind your eyes. You will not see it, it seems. Be allowed to see what it is you are making. You will not, it seems, be allowed to see what you are making. The tree causes you to walk, making great loops in strange patterns around the trees on your property. Soon you are outside your property, in the unmarked lands outside of Prosper, still walking in a strange pattern that you know in your gut has to be a magic working. If only you knew what its purpose was. You are not honorable enough yourself to convince the magic. Your true nature and intentions show through. In these cases, it were better if you did not pretend at all. It is a harsh lesson and cuts deep. A wave of nausea and a splitting headache hit you simultaneously. You straighten cautiously, wincing. After all this, the rip of spina leaving your arm causes you to cry out loud. You did not perform the task adequately. This is your punishment, clearly. Relief hits you, dizzying as you feel your own mind. Your own thoughts come back. Whatever else, your part of the bargain is done. You return home exhausted and feeling bruised to the bone. Yeah, it's a little piecemeal through that section. Let's find out what that did. We lost some spina, not a ton, but we did lose it. The Weirs are not as happy with us as they were either. And our woodbound is still a thing, as is our weird sense. Whoopsies. Our health also took a hit. We're not nearly as bad off as I thought we would be, but yeah, that hurt. Whew. That's why I called it piecemeal, as if I know that the back end of this is that certain paragraphs or even certain sentences in within paragraphs get replaced depending on your stats, and how the back end of things is affecting things. So the writing in that section was very disjointed just because our stats weren't in the correct places for what it was trying to do. Um, it could have been refined a little bit more on the back end for that page, I think. Anyway, continuing on. The thought of the daemons' retinue and the formality with which they habitually attend their overlords weigh upon you. For the more you see, the more you hear, the clearer it seems that there must be rules controlling the daemon's presence and prosper. Perhaps they are even in the charter. Over breakfast, I make a point of asking Bruno about it. My guardian knew many things about the daemons that are not commonly mentioned, you say. Bruno hesitates slightly from the mention of his late employer. You suppress a grimace. Remembering can be painful, but sometimes it is the only way to find new ways through. It is better not to speak of those things, Messer. How do you communicate to him your suspicions without unveiling your clandestine activities or drive him to alarm? Do we speak openly? Do we appeal to his emotions? Do we present the matter logically, or do we circumvent the truth? So, speaking openly, I think, is the safe choice. Appealing to his emotions is the empathy choice. Presenting the matter logically is the intelligence choice. And circumventing the truth is the subterfuge choice. Um, Speaking openly might also be the charisma choice. Maybe. So, 1, 2, 3, or 4, chat. What shall we do? 1, 2, 3, or 4. Open, emotions, logic, or lies. The writing is alluding to the fact that because we have run into the Fallen as well as Malachite being shady AF, we are involved in trying to figure out what they are doing. As much as our choices have not necessarily shown that we are pursuing that, we are pursuing that because that is how the story continues further. Um, it is not it has not been explained sufficiently, so sometimes it takes a few runs through this story to realize that the whole story revolves around each faction attempting to do something about taking over Prosper. So the humans are, of course, just trying to become um, wealthier gentry in Prosper. The daemons are trying to take Prosper for themselves. The Weirs are trying to re- reclaim Prosper for themselves because it was cut out of their wood originally. The charter is all that binds these three factions together into a form of neutral space. Um, but obviously, the daemons are digging up things that they should not be doing, which we know from our previous run is actually the 4 cornerstones that holds the um, borders of Prosper and its space in place. Um, they're trying to undo the protections to take the land for themselves. The Wares, we have not interacted with them nearly enough to figure out what they are potentially up to, but to some degree it is alluded to that the Wares are also trying to reclaim the space in a different direction entirely, by infiltrating it and um, leaving their little seeds in so that the wood expands back through Prosper and overcomes it entirely, regardless of the fact that the cornerstones should be keeping them out. And then, of course, there's the human element where they are just trying to become, you know, more wealthy and higher ranked in society itself, amongst the gentry. So that's what we know. I have played this game more times than I have on stream, obviously, because I know more of these details from having made different choices in earlier runs. But um, as much as this is alluding to us pursuing information that we have at all turns not really chosen to pursue, we are still caught in this. This is still something that we have a tiny amount of interest in. So we must decide how we communicate with Bruno, our trusted manservant, about the daemons, however this conversation goes. So, do we speak with him openly? Do we appeal to his emotions? Do we present the matter logically, or do we simply lie to him? What do you think, chat? What do we do? Um, we have enough empathy to appeal to his emotions. We do not have enough intelligence to present it logically, but we could still try. I mean, maybe it will up our intelligence to do so, even if it fails. Um, we could also push our subterfuge up a little bit as well. What do we think? I can just make a decision. Two. All right, we will try two. We will appeal to his emotions. You must feel as I do that all is not well here, you say. I believe that there is something wrong in Prosper, and it is to do with the daemons. He looks at you for a moment and then his shoulders slump. I cannot pretend I have felt wholly at ease this season, he murmurs. Bruno takes a moment to compose himself and then speaks measuredly. What you say does indeed seem grave. I do not know all that Messer Montague knew, of course. They rarely confided in me. But I do believe that more information could be found in the council library. That is where they keep all the important documents from the founding of Prosper until now. You thank him and for his help and set off to the library. The library is in a corner of the council chamber. Today there was no meeting, and you encounter very few people around. However, once you enter, you quickly realize that you are not alone. The librarian, a stick-like man of refined dress and appearance, whom you recognize from the council meeting, is there. He is seated at the desk, apparently deep in writing something. Yet when you ease closer to the door, the scuff of your footsteps makes him raise his head and look around, an expression of cute suspicion on his face. How will we gain access to the library? Do we create a distraction and sneak in? Invent a suitable excuse to see the records, or feel for the weaknesses in the building's magical defense and slip through the wall? We have not played with magic nearly as much as we could have. I do not suggest the magical one. That will probably end up bad. We could try it just to see what it does. Um, creating a distraction to sneak in will be our subterfuge, which we might be able to pull off. And inventing a suitable excuse to see the records is what we used last time, because that is the charisma option. So, one, two, or three. Um, subterfuge, charisma, or I think it's weird sense is. We could definitely, oh, it might be a combination of things actually on the back end. I'm not entirely certain what number 3 is tagged to, but we could try it. Trav says 2. Um, we did use 2 last time, and it did work. We were the charisma build in our previous run, so I'm kind of hoping that we do something different this time, Trav. Not gonna lie, I'm hoping for a different time. So I'm gonna veto that particular and ask you to try again. And if anyone else in chat wants to weigh in on it, they are more than welcome. I love it when my chat participates with these choose your adventure stories. So Trav has voted for 1 to create a distraction and sneak in. See if we can't be a little bit sneaky, a little bit shady. And then there's the magic option as well, which is number 3. One it is. Very carefully, you pick up one of the book weights from a side table and, leaning back to go unseen, throw it at one of the ornamental vases on the stairs. There is a crash, and the librarian jumps up. You conceal yourself behind the door as he rushes past to examine the damage. With any luck, he should be gone for several minutes, chasing non existent ruffians. You have successfully made it past the library's gatekeeper and are free to look without being apprehended. You examine the gilded volumes and scrolls until you see the raised display cabinet that houses the charter. There's just one problem. Your eyes land on a place where it should be. You cannot fully believe it. The display case is empty. The charter is gone. How do we react? Is this a calamity? Do we keep calm, or are we sure that there's more to this than meets the eye? So, do we freak out? Do we chill out? Or do we investigate? What shall we do, chat? What shall we do? 1, 2, or 3? Keep calm and get a drink. Yes. Yes. British Stoicism. Keep calm and carry on, shall we? All right. You stand rooted to the spot for too long. Eventually, your thoughts catch up with your racing heart. Who could have taken it? Who else in this town even knows about this matter? The thought strikes you with driving force. Someone else must be on the same trail as you. Or else, or else someone has been in on it all along. But who? The burglary must have been recent. It seems it was not common knowledge. If Bruno could not tell you of it, if Bruno could not have told you of it, you must find out where it is or who took it before it is too late. Or another thought traps you in place. Perhaps it is not too grievous a loss. After all, prosperous society, with its finicky rules and casual cruelty, is not quite the Arcadia it is painted as. Someone, the librarian no doubt, coughs somewhere in the back of the room and tromps towards the front bookshelves, yanking you back to the present moment. You had thought there was no one else present, but evidently they were filing something in the back. Right now you are faced with a conundrum. Whatever your personal feelings regarding the town, the charter is missing, and someone is either in step with you or has an agenda of their own. How do we proceed? Do we eavesdrop on the librarian for information? Do we do some research? Or do we ask around? I'm going to check. Our subterfuge is good. It's not great, but it is enough for most things. Our charisma is enough for most things. Our influence is enough for most things. We're respectable enough for some things. So of the options, eavesdropping we might be able to pull off this time. We tried it last time, it did not work out. Researching, our intelligence isn't high enough, I don't think, for this to be what we need it to be, to give us much of anything. And asking around is something that we definitely could do, and we are bold enough to do. The fact that we snuck in here, however, might get us in trouble. So Trav says 3. If anyone else would like to weigh in, they may. But so far, 3 is the current decision. Three it is. We shall ask around. If you hear barking in the background, it is just the dog letting me know that someone has returned home. Dear Dixie is making herself known. Anyway, you leave the building. There is no more information to be found here. However, the warden you run into outside seems much more affable than the librarian. You quickly strike up a conversation and nonchalantly mention what you are seeking. Oh, yes, yes, there was a break-in, they say. Got moved to the mayor's private vault, everything did. You thank the warden and rush towards the mayor's residence. The mayor's vault is not in the mayor's residence, contrary to its name, but in the town hall. This is good news for you, as it affords you easier entry. Oof, that was badly put together. Oopsies. However, your good luck runs out there, for the sound of voices soon tells you that you are not alone. Although the attempted burglary was a few days ago, your behavior looks undoubtedly suspicious. It's possible that the real burglar might come back, or that others might think this. A group of people rounds the corner before you can hide, or even begin to make some kind of plan, and you are faced with a crowd. They surround you, babbling about conjunctions of habit, reason, and time. It is a moment before you recognize them. The philosophers. A cool voice cuts through the commotion, and you freeze. Well, well, what have we here? It appears we've interrupted you, says Ren Grufford. He appears a second later, looking nonchalant, again in all black coat and cravat. Several of the philosophers who are at your party nudge each other and smile. Ah, Messer Montague, one says. What a pleasant surprise. Ren smiles too, reflexively. Hosting a good party does not exonerate anyone, he says, but he sounds bemused rather than peevish. I'm afraid we cannot accept your presence here without some explanation. This seems logical, and it is clear it is not meant unkindly. If there has been a break-in, and they know about it, this timing looks distinctly suspect. How do you convince the philosophers that you are not the would-be thief? One can but try. So, do we rationally explain everything to them, knowing that our intelligence stat is not that high, but they would be more appreciative of a rational explanation? Do we make up an excuse for our presence and just lie? Or do we convince them that our task is perfectly innocent with our charisma? Which shall we do? Which do you think will be more likely to go over well? 1, 2, or 3, chat. Tell me what you think. I do know that last time we picked number 3. We did convince them. We did have the charisma build last time. We do not have the charisma build this time. We are a bit more shady and than we were before, but we are also very bold. So a rational explanation may be our best bet. Being that as it may also not be, it might not go over well just because our intelligence stat is not exactly high, but we do have a bit more of it than not. Yeah, I think 1 is probably our best bet here just because of how our stats fall, but it's a thing. It is a thing. I was just going to look at the charter, you explain. You see, it is all rather complicated. Your thoughts are racing, and you find yourself quite unable to collect them and put them in proper order. The philosophers consider your words for a moment. There are a few furtive glances between them. At length, the bespectacled man speaks up. I am afraid I do not follow you at all. It does not make sense in the least. There is a chorus of agreement, not least of all from Wren. I would like to believe you, Messire Montague, he says, but Armitage is right. It is not sound. We cannot trust you. Oh, but please, I can do better, you say. If you wish to avoid further suspicion and stand a chance at working with the philosophers, your only hope is to convince them to work with you, unless you do not wish to work with them. Thought arrests you. The philosophers' knowledge and experience of the town and its secrets could make them valuable allies and make your own work easier in uncovering this problem. The philosophers, evidently, know something of the break-in and the plot. However, such a crowd will make it difficult to maintain secrecy. How will you proceed? So, do we charm them into working together, expound upon the benefits of working together, or politely seek to work separately? Um, our charisma stat is number one. Our intelligence stat is the number two, which is problematic. Oh, hey, Winter Fairy, welcome back. Sorry to hear that you had to deal with the apartment office. I know that can be annoying, but we appreciate you return. And then politely seeking to work separately just means that we cannot fall upon their help. The twos have it. I guess we're expounding upon the benefits of working together today. Hoping it works out. It's not the worst, but we don't have the highest. Certainly not enough to convince them necessarily, but here we are. Working together would be beneficial, you say, but before you can articulate exactly how, some of the philosophers burst out with accusations. You are forced to defend your position until the opposition becomes untenable. You are on your own. Then, if you give us leave, we will continue as we see fit, and you do as you do, Wren says. We took the precaution of borrowing this. He pulls out the charter. You wait while they examine it and consult each other. When they are finished, they leave it for you to examine. The charter is dusty and unassuming. It does not look like the object of contention it currently seems to be. There is little dust on it. The handwriting is curly and old-fashioned, but nonetheless clearly the work of an official scribe. In the corner underneath the agreement is a blazing mark that hurts your stomach when you look at it. That must be the mark of the daemons. Then you spot the curling, unfurling mark in emerald green on the other side. That must be the wearer's mark. In the center are the signatures of the 16 founders and the notary's stamp. It is all drawn out in writing, this strange collection of functions and rules that makes up prosper life. All planned out, with all the hardship and sudden rise to fortune that Prosper has entailed for its gentry. What an odd thought indeed. It makes you reel for a moment at the implications, truth to tell. The language of the charter is old-fashioned and riddled with legal intricacies. What do you think it all means? Yes, Winter Fairy, our intelligence is not as high as it could be. So, do we use logic to reason it out? Do we get a sense of the basic meaning? Do we guess the most outrageous meaning, or do we look at the nuances and focus on those? I believe we tried to look at the nuances last time, and it didn't work out. I think our safest choice with our stats is getting a sense of the basic meaning. I do know that Trev has a penchant for the outrageous meaning when possible, but it's up to chat. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Can we try 3? We can try 3. And since I only have 2 active chat members telling me what vote to make, I am going to try for 3 and see if it works out. Yes, Trav, I am aware that it's just for this run, but I'm going off of this run. You have attempted to be outrageous, and it's been very enjoyable all the way. So we will pander to your outrageousness this once. Thoughts are flying every which way. You ignore most of them and settle on the most obvious, yet most outrageous meaning possible. The meaning snaps into place. Daemons cannot step on prosperous soil. As long as these elements, the keystones, are present, the daemons must be forbidden from stepping on prosperous soil. That is why they are always carried around. That is why they gather the fallen. They need them to have access to your world. This would explain what you saw after the picnic, the strange behavior of the fallen, the fact that they were attempting to unearth something and also to hide their intent. You consider the implications you have found. The cords of the daemon's plot are thickly woven, and yet there are surely safeguards in place to prevent anyone from finding loopholes. They should not have been able to circumvent the rules so easily. It hits you like a wine barrel. The daemons must have been aided from within the ranks of prosperous gentry. As long as the keystones remain, Prosper is safe. But if not, the entire town is at risk. A moment's pause, you can hear your heart beating. What is your intent? Do we have to tell someone? Do we keep the secret, or do we need more information? Personally, I would go with number one, but it is up to chat to decide our fate in this scramble to ensure the daemons do not take Prosper for themselves. Winter Fairy is with me. Is Trav also with me? Or any other of our viewers? Looks like the ones have it, primarily because I'm voting one. Well, we will have a choice here, I think, in the moment. Maybe not. But you cannot do anything tonight. It grows late, and a thought more dreadful strikes you. First, you must ascertain that the keystones are real and that they are still present. If they are not, well, this proposes new worries indeed, but those are not for this evening. The hour grows late. It is time to return home. The night is dark and darker still now that you know what you know. The stars are very bright, and the sickle moon shines an eerie, glowing grin. You are alone in your home, and for the time being, still in your skin and with enough to guard your soul. Let the morning bring what it brings. And we're on to chapter 9, The Sleepers. So, I believe chapter 9 is where we will help Danae. I could be wrong. But yes, we have not had the opportunity to help her yet. However, we have run through 2 chapters, and I have been at this for almost 2 hours. So we will go over in our wrap up what our stats are and leave it at that. So our charisma is at a somewhat healthy 69%, which is nice. Our intelligence is almost at 60%. So it is not the best that we could have. It's still fairly neutral, all things considered. We are still quite bold and not at all delicate. Our empathy is a solid 65. Our subterfuge is a solid 61. So we are shady and not quite so truthful, not quite so principled. Our health is at a middling 64%, though. Our bargain with the wares was not healthy for us, not at all. But we are accomplished, a healthy amount of accomplished, and a bit sporty on the side. As for our reputation, we have managed to salvage ourselves into becoming slightly more respectable than scandalous. We were a bit more scandalous than respectable there for a moment, but we've recovered a bit. We have quite a high influence, and we are quite a dangerous person, or at least known to be anyway. Our woodbound is very slight. We are slightly touched by the wares and nothing more. Our weird sense, our magic sense, has gone up, but we're not quite solid in our foundation of it. And our philanthropy is ticking up slowly but surely. We are not the most philanthropic person, but we are more philanthropic than most, I believe. As for the relationships that we have, the wares are slightly friendly leaning. We're not exactly the best of pals, but they do not think of us in terrible terms. The daemons, however, displeased. Just displeased. Dearest Hippolyta, our sweet and wonderful childhood friend who we have had a recently flirtatious moment with, and a lovely end of a party evening with, is a solid 79%. Uh, um, Colonel Ajax is definitely our supporter, and Lady Eugene still has her eyes on us in a more fond than not manner. Unfortunately, Mr. Wren Grufford does not like us as much as he used to, but it's still a nice amount. Damon's get bent indeed. Um, Miss Danae Grufford likes us quite a bit more than her cousin does, and Alcindor Wakeforth still has their eyes on us. This is a person that we have much in common with. Um, Mistress Jocasta Smythe is of ever her caustic self, but even after our duel with her, she is mostly neutral, mostly, but leaning friendly, mostly neutral. We'll just leave it at mostly neutral. We still have a small fortune of 39 spina. It did cost us a little bit of spina to have not been wholly successful in our tasks for the wares, unfortunately, but not the entire amount that they gave us. So we did at least do enough that we have some wealth to our I should say some wealth and will to our name. So that is where we are left at the end here. So we will pick up tomorrow, Friday, the last day that I stream every week, on chapter 9 and try to get to the end of the story, which I believe finishes in chapter 10. So I hope that I will see everyone back here again tomorrow. I hope that you have enjoyed us for what you have been able to catch and that you have been enjoying the story. We will discuss at the end of Weyrwood what we will be doing next as well. So please stay tuned for that. Until tomorrow, it has been wonderful to have you all. I will look forward to the end of this Weyrwood, and I hope everyone takes care until then. Later, guys. Bye.